After 7 straight wins, Phil Hellmuth finally gave us a glimpse of mortality as Tom Dwan did what no one before him managed to, and now it is time for the rematch. Time for High Stakes Duel 3, Round 3, and time for the hype show, and time for a look at the brothers Cardigan. That would be yours truly, Ali Nejad, alongside the cash game, heads up, just all-around poker specialist, Phil Galfond, who graces us with his presence, as I know you're quite a busy man between being a papa and a business owner. But let's dive right into it. Phil, you know a thing or two about heads-up play. Obviously, you had a tremendously popular challenge series that a lot of people followed along online, which was wildly entertaining. More seat time, perhaps, than the average bear in the heads-up format. Walk us through just a little bit of a general sense of what delineates this specific format from all other forms of poker.
The thing about heads-up poker, I mean, poker is poker, no matter how you play it, but with heads-up poker, there's really nowhere to hide. You know, if you're playing a ring game, somebody who's just waiting for tens plus, waiting for ace queen, you're not going to be able to take advantage of them too much. Yeah, they're going to fold their blinds a little bit more. But in heads up, you know, you have to make value bets within hands. You have to make call downs within hands. You have to make bluffs. And if you don't, your opponent can take full advantage because it's going to be obvious to them. So it's really just, I think, extreme poker.
Yeah, and we have seen some extreme victories. Hellmuth, rather, was undefeated up until this last round against Tom Dwan. And let's flash back to how exactly it is that we got here, because Dwan was actually Hellmuth's second opponent in this third edition of the High Stakes Duel in in High Stakes Duel 1. He swept Antonio Esfandiari, then he swept Daniel Negreanu. In the second edition, it was Nick Wright, however, who was one and done in the first round. Then Dwan stepped right on in and defeated his nemesis, I would imagine, if you were to ask Phil, going all the way back to the Heads Up Poker Championships when Dwan was very short in the tooth at that time. There were some very interesting hands from the last contest between these two. And I want to get right into this nitty-gritty by flashing back to a couple of spots, both of them involving the almighty King Deuce.
And a fireworks kind of board here, Ollie. Let's see.
Check.
Oh,
It does
and
come
magical.
home twice.
And obviously when they pick up a card such as this,
Check.
Check.
oftentimes they can be emboldened to try to represent, and
Check.
Hellmuth
I have all of it.
set the snare. And Dwan has done very well to avoid most of these.
So that first pot there, Phil, the check back from Dwan with top pair. A lot of times in heads-up poker, we think it's hard to make a pair, let alone top pair. And maybe we go for some of that thin value that you alluded to earlier. But instead, with 4 to a straight and the flush complete, he just checks back and doesn't take the bait from Phil.
Yeah, starting with the flop, I mean, you check back some top pairs on the flop, and you want to start with your weakest generally. So Tom's play, flop and turn, entirely standard. On the river, he has to decide if he wants to go for value, and I think against Phil, he makes the wise decision not to. Phil, when everything gets there, is not going to call too light. I think the interesting part is that Phil went for the check raise rather than the bet on the river. And I believe we heard him say in the hand that he had a read that Tom had a straight. And so he's going to go for the check raise against a straight. Now, normally you wouldn't check raise with the 9 of diamonds in your hand because you block those straights from occurring. But I think the thing, as I've watched all of these heads-up challenges, heads-up matches with Phil Hellmuth, the thing you take away is some of the hands that he plays. If you were to look at the hand history, it doesn't seem quite right. But he's playing based on reads, and he's built a career based on his reads. And more often than not, he's right. So who am I to say if he had a read that Tom had a straight? You know, that time it wasn't right, but maybe most of the time it would be.
I want to zero in on what you said there, because a lot of times it is with tremendous criticism from the foremost, thought leaders in poker that Phil operates, and nobody seems to ever want to give him the sort of respect that I know if you were to ask him, he thinks he deserves. Look at his bracelet tallies and whatnot. Is it fair to describe what he's doing as deviation and putting his own spin on things, and in doing so kind of exploiting maybe some of the people who ascribe themselves to this GTO perhaps too much?
I don't think he's exploiting necessarily the fact that people are ascribing to GTO. I think he's making reads in individual hands based on body language or timing of the bet or something else, and he's adjusting based on that. And I think he hasn't even bothered to learn GTO play, as a lot of his opponents have, because his reads have worked for him so well. And if you look at times when he has made strange plays, if you go back, especially the match against Antonio, some of his hands against Daniel, a lot of the times that he was doing crazy stuff, they had weak hands. So.
Yeah, it seemed like it worked out pretty well. Let's go now to another hand from that first meeting between Dwan and Hellmuth. Again, King Deuce for Dur.
11.
11,000. Call.
Indeed. See, Ollie, 40K out there.
Dwan makes the call. Now,
Customary chips to the side.
27,000.
Wow, look at this, Ollie.
7,000.
Dwan knows if he makes this call and is wrong, Hellmuth will have the chip lead.
Oh, he does pay it off. Bravo, Tom.
Wow. And that'll let the wind out of your sails if you're Phil Hellmuth.
Yeah, certainly. Just like that, 8-1 chip lead for Tom Dwan.
The largest of the match thus far.
Great call there.
Great call indeed, and Dwan showing some of that sniff that obviously is necessary in order to emerge victorious in any heads-up battle. And I think for Hellmuth, you know, it compounds sometimes his sense of like spiraling into the abyss when he gets called in those spots, because he always expects that people will respect any bet that he makes and give him credit for a hand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Phil knows his image and he plays to it well. And I think what Tom was thinking about as time was ticking down, he took a long time to make that call. He's thinking about, okay, well, Phil's saying he has a big hand. Usually he does. But what big hand is it? Because I don't think he's doing this with ace-4 on the. I don't think he's betting the turn with ace-4, 6-4 maybe, but they're only suited combos. And wait, if he has a middling strength 9, is he really going to put this much money into the pot? I don't think so. So how often does he have a 5? And actually, how often will he trap me when he has a 5? Because we saw Phil try to trap Tom time and time again. And so Tom thought all of that through, and in the end thought that, you know, even though Phil's not usually blasting off, he couldn't find enough value hands and decided to make the call.
Yeah, and he really put the cuffs on Phil throughout the course of that match. I mean, there was no breathing room whatsoever. It felt like nothing went Phil's way whatsoever. All right, from Galfond analysis to a little bit of bill paying, PokerGO fans, Thrive Fantasy has partnered with PokerGO to provide daily fantasy player prop contests for you to win exclusive prizes. Choose who you think will go over or under their projected stats. Enjoy the games and watch your picks update in real time. Thrive has over $50,000 in prizes each week for the NFL playoffs. Download the app or sign up on thrivefantasy.com and enter promo code PokerGO for a $250 instant first deposit match. So if you're hungry for action, come and prop up today. And speaking of hungry, it's time for a segment, Phil, we always do here at PokerGo. And can I interest you in a Pop-Tart by chance?
Yeah.
I don't have a toaster, but people tell me they're better cold.
Thank you.
This is the, you know about betting and whatnot. This is where we put lines up on the board about what Phil might bring to the affair as far as sustenance is concerned. Avocado on a meat product. That's a pretty wide range there for the avocado to deli meat parlay. Just plus 275, fairly modest. Melted cheese on a flour tortilla, I believe that's referred to as a quesadilla. Plus 400. Man, these Sour Patch Kids are... Take it home, Phil. What's the next two? I'm in the middle of candy.
Actually, you're going to have to take it home because my glasses are not on.
Oh, my goodness. Optically challenged Galfond. It's Dan noodles and spice level mild. Not that we'll be able to really figure out what the spice level is. That's plus 1,700. And then the longest shot, I don't even know what it was. Zach, what was the longest shot on the board? Mongolian beef.
Okay.
Chased with an energy drink? What are we paying out for that? Are we actually booking these bets? Can people like tweet us? And we'll just go on the honor system? I really have to stop eating these Sour Patch Kids. This is heinous. Do you like anything on the board there, Phil? And you didn't know we were gonna call on you for this sort of expertise here today. I know.
No, but I'm glad.
Is it insulting?
No, I'm glad you have. I mean, I'm a sucker for a parlay, but with the Mongolian beef, I think that's going to be like with a fork or maybe chopsticks. Phil likes to eat with his hands.
An energy drink and Mongolian beef is just the sucker's bet. I hate to break it to anybody out there, but avocado on a deli meat product, I feel like draws live compared to anything over there. And he's never had Dan noodles. Maybe you put a little something, you sprinkle a little something up there for the 1700. Okay, time to get serious. Let's talk about what's really at stake other than gastrointestinal distress. It is the money, of course. 50,000 ahead is what Nick Wright and Hellmuth played for. Then it was 100,000 in that first round between Dwan and Hellmuth. Here we play for 400K, $200,000 a man. And while that may seem like a tremendous amount of money, let's not forget that Hellmuth has banked a heap of prize money already. So this 200K would just be, coming out of the wins that he's had thus far. That said, we know he hates to lose, Phil.
Yeah. Phil wants to win, and what we saw last time is that Tom wants to win too. I know that there was a question of how dedicated he would be, how serious he'd take it. He took it seriously, and I think that what also was evident is that Phil's reads on Tom were not dialed yet. And
well, it's been a minute since the two of them actually played against one another, and Dwan's been out playing kind of a very different sort of opponent overseas and in the cash games than Phil has been playing of late. So with all of that said, will Tom actually care and bring his A game to the table? Will Phil be able to sort of decode the guy who's a bit of a mystery to him at this point? Who do you like going into this second match between them?
I think that I like Tom because I think that Phil, until he's proven that he does have the reads down pat on Tom, I think he probably still doesn't. And Tom's fundamental game, Phil readless, his fundamental game is not as strong as Tom's. And so that's
okay, so now if I were to have come to you before the first time that they faced off, without you having borne witness to what Tom managed to do against him in this first one, would you have still taken Dwan over Hellmuth then when Phil was undefeated?
It's really hard to bet against the undefeated guy.
Right.
I think maybe not, no.
Yeah, all right. Well, I will go ahead and take Hellmuth since you are not brave enough to do so, although obviously Dwan is... I think at this point a bit of a favorite. What was the discussion? Maybe a 6-5.
Yeah, 6-5.
Dog is Phil. All right. Well, there you have it. That is going to do it for the Hype Show. Our thanks to you guys for watching. Next up, it is none other than Tom Dwan against Phil Hellmuth for $200,000 a man. It happens tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. On behalf of Phil Galfond, I'm Ali Nejad saying good night. Come on, eat a popcorn.